How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, my apologies. This is very unprofessional way to start the show. I'm going to assume that I can hear myself and you can't hear me because I can't hear anything else under the sun. So I will begin with the President of the United States and his, comments earlier on Air Force One that have now gone viral.
Is there something incriminating in the file, sir? Why not
Quiet, Piggy, he said. Oh, and the reverb is gone now. Excellent. Yes, the President of the United States referred to a young woman as Piggy. Yes. Quiet Piggy on the plane, he said. And the result is, the media is very upset with him. So the White House says that he was giving back to this reporter who was behaving deeply inappropriately, and she was trying to interject and interrupt other people. And so the president called her out with quiet Piggy. One more time, you can hear the interaction.
Is there something incriminating in the file, sir?
Quiet Piggy. The media's outraged. Very outraged by the President of the United States referring to apparently a female reporter as Piggy. And they're not exactly sure what to do about him. They're just all screaming on social media. And now you know the big outrage scandal of the day, and the White House view is that if she can dish it out, she's got to be able to take it as good as she gets it. And crying that she's a victim, the White House doesn't care. She was being rude and objectionable, according to the White House, and the president was seeking to dominate the conversation over her. So that is, again, there's relatedly an Olivia Nuzzi story. You probably don't even know who Olivia Nuzzi is. She was a big reporter in D.C. She was dating another reporter, Ryan Liz. It turns out she was having a quote-unquote sexting affair with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and the result is she and Liza broke up. Nothing ever happened with her and Kennedy. It turns out in 2020, she might possibly been in a relationship allegedly with Mark Sanford, the former congressman from South Carolina. And, the media is now doing a rehabilitation tour of this woman. Now, you should know that just a few years ago, this very same reporter, Olivia Nuzzi, was questioning why is it that people think that female reporters sleep with their sources. And, turns out, so there's a rehabilitation image for this woman. Now, my whole point here is this. The media loves stories about the media. The president chastising a reporter on Air Force One became the major story today because he referred to her as Piggy. Therefore, that's just mean and abusive. How dare they? Meanwhile, the president is literally meeting at the White House with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, and the big story the media cares about, he's referred to one of their own as Piggy, while they're trying to rehabilitate the image of a reporter who apparently had relationships with all of her sources, and that's how she got ahead. They don't actually care about the news. Now, because I care about the other news, there is other news out there, including the Epstein stuff is heating up. And I am just flummoxed about the whole Epstein stuff, and not in the way you may think. a lot of the young women who were victims of Epstein and those around him also were, pressured into signing non-disclosure agreements, and they got money for it. Allegedly well-paid women. Now, the rule generally is a non-disclosure agreement cannot be used to cover up criminal activity. However, if they got a lot of money from it, they could have to pay a lot of money with lawyers to deal with a lawsuit against them. The odds, however, are, let's just think about this logically and rationally. Logically and rationally. Who is going to sue a victim given the publicity that's going to come from it? Who on earth would sue one of the victims who accused one of these guys? I mean, my suspicion is that if you are a victim in the Epstein situation and you've signed a non-disclosure agreement and you've gotten a lot of money, that when you tell all, the person who sues you is going to be so vilified and a court is probably going to throw out the NDA. Why aren't you coming forward? We know there are some names leaking out. And again, here's part of the problem. And I need to have a grown-up conversation with you. The suspicion is that Jeffrey Epstein connected a lot of very rich and powerful men to underage women. And they were abusive relationships where these young women were prostituted. And we know that happened in some cases. I mean, Prince Andrew and the one young lady who committed suicide. We know that happened. We know there are others. But also, a lot of the young women were abused by Jeffrey Epstein and not by other men. And there are many people who have this belief that there's this sordid world of very wealthy men who are all abusing these young women with Jeffrey Epstein, when actually a lot of the abuse came from Epstein himself. I'm not denying it happened. I do find it notable, though, that we have these women holding press conferences now, by the way, funded by a George Soros operation, demanding the release of all the files and all the information. And we know that he was a big fan of Hakeem Jeffries. And we know that the delegate from the Virgin Islands covered for Jeffrey Epstein. And notice, by the way, how quiet the Democrats are about this delegate from the Virgin Islands, who for a long time had lots of rumors. Stacey Plaskett, she is the at-large delegate for the Virgin Islands. She's not a congresswoman. She's a delegate. Very interesting that her website titles her Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, but if you click through, she's actually just a delegate. She's not a congresswoman. She's a delegate from the Virgin Islands, and she has all sorts of ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Notice how the Democrats aren't saying anything about her. Larry Summers is retiring from public life. Larry Summers is the former Bill Clinton Treasury Secretary, the former National Council of Economic Advisors guy he was the Harvard president. He is stepping aside from public life because he had a lot of ties to Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of ties to Jeffrey Epstein. But also, there's Steve Bannon. Many of you on the right who are Steve Bannon fans who think there's a lot of nefariousness, are you going to deal with Steve Bannon? Now, it is a progressive site, but they do have the emails. I will just read this synopsis for you here. Steve Bannon, MAGA influencer and former White House chief of staff to President Trump, promised to shield Jeffrey Epstein from prosecution months before his prison. Newly unearthed text messages suggested on Monday. The text messages, highlighted by author and academic Karen Piper, Monday were part of a document dump of 20,000 pages of files. Quote, if either one of us in different investigations will need to testify publicly, it would be preferred to do it with two nostrils instead of one, wrote Epstein in a text December 5th, 2018, to a person who, while their name is redacted, is believed to be Bannon based on contextual clues, according to The Guardian and other media outlets. You don't have to worry personally because I'm sending you somewhere beyond extradition, wrote back the responder believed to be Bannon. While the aforementioned text messages were exchanged, it's been over a year since Bannon was forced out of the Trump administration, largely over his clashes with Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. In a separate text message exchange dated June 28, 2019, just 43 days before Epstein died in prison, the disgraced financier texted the individual to be believed to be Bannon about their friendship and how he believed it struck fear in Trump. Now you understand why Trump wakes up in the middle of the night sweating when he hears you and I are friends, Epstein wrote. Bannon and Epstein maintained a long relationship over the years, with recent documents revealing more details about their friendship and the fact Bannon had advised Epstein on how to rehabilitate his image in the wake of his 2007 criminal conviction for child prostitution. Bannon had also shot hours of interview material with Epstein that he teased in 2019 and then never released. If we're going to hold people on the left accountable, we got to hold people on the right accountable, don't we? Is this a partisan matter or not? And you see, here's the problem, is that the partisans have treated this as a partisan matter, not a matter of great abuse of victims. The House is going to vote to release the Epstein files. The Senate will too. You know, the executive branch, someone emailed me this morning and said, is it true that it's just Trump blocking the effort and Trump could do it? No. A federal judge has prohibited the release of the information. It was an Obama-appointed judge, if I remember right, is the one who prohibited the release of the information. But Congress is allowed to release the information if Congress wishes. And so it's not a cover-up by the Biden or the Trump administration. It's a judge has said Congress has to act to release the information. So Congress is acting. There appear to be votes in the House and the Senate to do it. The president now says go on and vote and release it all. So release it all. Let the chips fall where they may. But I got to ask you guys who are really, really, really obsessed with the Epstein stuff. Will there be global accountability or just for your enemies? If you really believe there is a secret cabal of wealthy men abusing women, and there do appear to be a group of wealthy men who abused women with Jeffrey Epstein, although a lot of the abuse was Epstein himself. If the chips fall where they may and someone you have thought highly of, respected, listened to, or gave clout and attention to is on the list, is there going to be accountability or is this going to be tribalism? Larry Summers is in there. Steve Bannon is in there. This Virgin Islands delegate is in there. There are a lot of people in there. I think the wealthy and the powerful who are in there, there's going to have to be accountability for them. Some of the hesitation in releasing some of the stuff, as the federal judge said, is that some people who are named in there, they're actually innocent. They didn't do anything wrong. They just have to be mentioned, and there's a risk they're tarred and feathered. You'll have to use discretion. But for those of you who are really concerned about this stuff, will it be nonpartisan in how you treat it, or will you just come for your political enemies and spare those on your side? That's going to be on the people when they get the information, but the information is coming. Guys, if you struggle to come up with gifts for family members, I got a suggestion for you, the Cove Pure. I love mine. I wasn't sure I would like it as much as I do, and I really, really, really do. What is a Cove Pure? Well, it's an water filtration system. It's on the countertop. You can get cold water. You can get hot water. It even has a bottle button, so you can get the warm bottle perfect for formula for your baby at night. It's really easy. It's so convenient. I use it all the time in my office. You will love it. It sits on the countertop. It uses reverse osmosis. It gets rid of like pharmaceuticals, fluoride, lead, arsenic. It's the purest water you can get. It tastes fantastic. If you're looking for a great gift for your loved ones or for yourself, that they're actually going to use the Cove Pure. I partnered with them. They're giving you a $250 holiday discount with my link, covepure.com/Eric. That's COVEPURE.com/Eric, ERICK. You get $250 off, covepure.com/Eric. The sale is going to end, so take advantage of this $250 holiday discount, covepure.com/Eric. Hello there. Welcome. Sorry again about the glitch at the beginning of the show. I was like, surely they can't hear. All I could hear was myself, and I don't like to hear my voice. I don't understand how you people listen to me. But welcome. The phone number is 877-973-7425. You know, there's this wild re-embrace of socialism on the left and even some on the right. I mean, like the national industrial policy is a socialist policy that's being embraced by some on the right these days with tariffs and control of manufacturing and whatnot. And contrast that with Argentina now. Javier Milei down there has ended rent control, just as Mamdani in New York has decided he wants to expand rent control. And what has happened? The real estate market is exploding. This is from Reason Magazine. Martin Lopez is an Argentine landlord, but in recent years he felt more like a nervous fugitive. Now based in Madrid, he spent much of 2022 and 23 mired in anxiety and paperwork, not because he did anything immoral, but because Argentina's rental laws made being a landlord a liability. His name, Martin Lopez, is an alias. Until 23, he rented out his two-bedroom apartment in Buenos Aires' upscale Belgrano neighborhood through a tangle of short-term contracts, never fully sure whether his actions were legal. Argentina's rent control law, repealed in 2023, has loaded above-ground landlords with unbearable risk. Many like Martin fled the formal rental market into legal limbo. Empty apartments, housing shortages, and backroom deals defined the rental market. And now, with rent control gone, are exploding, and there is housing availability, not a housing shortage in Buenos Aires. And yet in New York, they're going to do the exact opposite, and you know what the results are going to be. We talked about it yesterday. There are a massive number of apartments in New York sitting empty because no one will rent them. Now, I got to tell you about Vision Computer. Vision is a fantastic company that will partner with you. And if you have managed IT, a lot of managed IT companies are moving to chatbots and AI. And with Vision Computers, you've got real people. You call them, and in 15 seconds or less, you get the answer to your question. Your employees stay online. They can be proficient at their job, not at their computer. Vision takes care of them and your company. They can even do email support. They can remote in. They can do printer support. They can do it remotely. They can help you out. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them Eric sent you. You can save some money. You go to visioncomputers.com. They can build you computers for your home or your office. My son has one. We're about to have to engage them for a laptop for college. He's going to need like a gaming laptop for his architecture program. And they're going to be the ones to build it because they do a great job. They save you money, and they're in it for the long term with you. And you get their tech support for free if you build the computer with them. Call them at 404-COMPUTE or go to visioncomputers.com. They are who I recommend. If you need a PC, you really want to use Vision Computer nationwide. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here, 877-973-7425. The president is meeting with the Saudi crown prince in the White House. They are buddy-buddy. They both hate Joe Biden. The rumor is we're going to be selling F-35s to Saudi Arabia. I was about to go take Ken's phone call. He hung up just as I was coming to him. Nora, I'll get to you in just a second. But the point he wanted to make is that normal people don't care about things like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Jeffrey Epstein. And by Ken, you're right. If you're listening, you're right. Normal people don't. And it is interesting how social media now dominates the conversation. They are major stories, you should know. They are major stories. But I don't know people who don't live heavily online who it's like their world revolves around the Epstein stuff and their world revolves around the goings-on of Marjorie Taylor Greene. And there is a real dichotomy now in what I do for a living where I've got to figure out what is the relevant noise online that's actually signal that's worth talking about, and what is it? Because some of the stuff people get whipped into a frenzy about online these days has no bearing on your life, and yet people online think it's the biggest story ever. And I think the Epstein story is going to play out in ways a lot of people online aren't expecting, and a lot of people are going to expect there to be a there that doesn't exist. And again, if you go back and actually talk to the lawyers originally, a lot of the lawyers said there was never a list, and yet there are people online to this day mad at me for telling them there's not going to be some formal list of people. The Epstein didn't keep one. No. XYZ podcast said there was. Well, they may have said it was, but they didn't know what they were talking about. I mean, one of the things people miss is that a lot of the young women who are victims never signed non-disclosure agreements. They could talk if they wanted to, and they've chosen not to talk. They don't want to relive the trauma, and it was all Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a mass predator. So, I mean, you got those situations there, and Ken is right. A lot of normal people don't care about these things, but they are still relevant news, and sometimes there is news, and my job is to give you the news, not just what you care about because you're not in that world. It's a weird dichotomy now where you have these diverging segments of people, the highly online and the not highly online, and do my best to bridge that gap. Nora, you're up next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I am great, Eric, and I listen to you every day on WCHM in
Thank you very much.
Georgia.
Excellent.
I also pray for your wife. And,
Thank you.
I'm glad that she's doing well. I'm glad she's
Thanks.
In this Jeffrey Epstein stuff, I wanted to ask the question, if there were people, wouldn't they have been indicted? Like, if there was a record of people when he was being prosecuted, couldn't they have drawn those names out? I mean, wouldn't those people already be in prison?
Yes. See, so I'm glad you said this, Nora, because this gets to the grand conspiracy that there was some cabal of people protecting people. Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of people in his world, a lot of like nerdy rich people who wanted to get women. And a lot of them, they didn't do illegal things. They did inappropriate things, just not illegal things. A lot of it was adultery that Jeffrey Epstein enabled and then collected data on those people and used to get favors. But much of the victimization of the victims comes from Epstein himself. We're going to find out about other people. Prince Andrew is a good example of this, formerly Prince Andrew. A lot of the women were paid a lot of money by the men who abused them in exchange for their silence. And they were over time convinced that if they then went to the authorities, they would be sued to get all that money back. That money, it was going to help their sick mother. It was going to – there's a report out today that apparently one of the people who was funding Epstein's efforts was paying for one of the victim's mother's cancer treatments and things like that. And so there was a lot of, in the abuse, a lot of money exchanged hands. And so the young women were essentially told their lives would be ruined if they came forward. There would be a lot of money spent. These were rich and powerful people, so they never came forward. If they come forward now, a lot of the situations are going to be beyond the statute of limitations. There's going to be no effort to prosecute some of the people because the statute of limitations has expired. But also, again, it's a complicated situation, but also, and this is the nutshell, is a lot of the abuse was from Epstein himself. There were, take the Larry Summers stuff. There doesn't appear to be, and it might come out in the files, but based on what we know so far, there isn't an allegation that Larry Summers was abusing underage women. But it appears he was engaging Jeffrey Epstein to help him with women, very creepily so. And that's enough to that you were hitching a ride to Jeffrey Epstein. A lot of this really does appear to be like very wealthy men who didn't know how to pick up women and were using Epstein to help him. And oftentimes he was referring them to prostitutes. And so a lot of the men appear not to have been abusing underage women, but appear to be using Jeffrey Epstein as a broker for legal age prostitution. in itself a problem and a crime, but different from underage young women. It just there's a lot of sordidness there. At the end of the day, here's the bottom line. What you need to know is that very wealthy people oftentimes think the law does not apply to them, and they behave in ways across partisan lines that benefit each other. There is a buddy-buddy circle of the ultra-wealthy of this country. They may not agree on Donald Trump. They may not agree on partisanship, but they protect each other and help elevate each other. It is seedy and gross, and that's what the Epstein scandal is probably going to reveal more than anything else. Now, I want to turn my attention to another story. One of the weird aspects of 21st century America, particularly in the age of Donald Trump, is how people on the left and the right define themselves by Donald Trump. So as I'm talking to you right now, Donald Trump and the Saudi crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, are in the White House, in the Oval Office. They're talking with reporters. They're talking with Marco Rubio was just talking a minute ago. And if you're on the right, you tend to like Mohammed bin Salman because he's on Donald Trump's side. If you're on the left, you hate him. There's the Khashoggi killing. There's Joe Biden, who hated him. In fact, Joe Biden deteriorated, objectively so. This isn't partisan spin. This is just truth. Joe Biden deteriorated our relationship so much with the Saudis that the Saudis started building bridges with China and started selling oil to China that they otherwise had not been selling to China. And Joe Biden was working towards getting the Saudi Arabians and the Chinese into a relationship together, positively for both countries and detrimental to our interests. People are defining themselves in this country by their relationship to Donald Trump. They are for something if he's against it. They're against something if he's for it. And that gets us to illegal immigration. I want to read you this Bill Melugin post from Fox News on Twitter. Department of Homeland Security confirms to Fox News that ICE has arrested an Uzbeki illegal alien, wanted alleged terrorist, who was driving an 18-wheeler in Kansas and had been given a CDL by the state of Pennsylvania. 31-year-old Akror Bozarov had been on an arrest warrant in Uzbekistan since 2022 for being a member of a terrorist organization and is accused of distributing terrorist propaganda, calling for jihad online, and recruiting terrorists. Per the Department of Homeland Security, he was caught and released at the border by the Biden administration in February of 2023. ICE arrested him on November 9th while he was working as a commercial truck driver. He was granted work authorization by the Biden administration in January 2024 and had a commercial driver's license issued by the state of Pennsylvania. DHS statement on Fox, quote, not only was Akror Bozarov a wanted terrorist released into the country by the Biden administration, but he was also given a commercial driver's license by Governor Shapiro's Pennsylvania. This should go without saying, but terrorist illegal aliens should not be operating 18-wheelers on America's highways. Biden and Mayorkas allowed countless terrorists to come into our country. President Trump and Secretary Noem unleashed ICE to target these national security threats. Democrats, why do you think this is a good idea? And if you don't think it's a good idea, if you're willing to say it's a bad idea, why didn't you say so back then? When you're circling your wagon around your own tribe, both sides do it, oftentimes wrong. You wind up in places like this. A man who's a member of a terrorist organization and an illegal alien has been driving an 18-wheeler in the United States of America. We had the illegal alien who killed people in a wreck down in Florida who had a CDL from California, who couldn't speak English, barely knew how to drive, but was given a commercial license. Why do any of you think this is a good idea? And right now, by the way, I think there are the overwhelming number of those people saying, no, we never thought it was a good idea. Well, why did you let it happen? Why did you enable it happen? I didn't know. You saw all the people coming across the border, and you were really dismissive of the concerns of those of us saying terrorists could get in. And I wasn't even talking about the known releases, but the unknown gotaways, the people who got away from federal authorities. For every 10 people or 20 people who crossed the border, one person was able to get across the border undetected. How many of them are here and how many of them are illegal aliens? Well, they're all illegal aliens. How many are terrorists? Here's one who we knew was on a terror list the Biden administration allowed to wander freely in the country. The state of Pennsylvania gave a driver's license to for commercial driving. That just kind of blows my mind that this was allowed. We knew it was going on, and so many people denied it. And so here's my thing. In all honesty, here's my thing. You Democrats, you understand you still have a lot to account for. My problem with the Republicans is so many Republicans right now are sounding a little bit like the Democrats, denying there's an economic problem in the country. But you Democrats, you did cause inflation. You said it was first no big deal, then you said it was transitory and it wasn't. And then you said illegal immigration was no big deal. And it turns out not only was it a big deal, it overwhelmed the border, but we were allowing terrorists in as illegal aliens and giving them driver's licenses to drive commercial trucks. Good thing he didn't fill it up with explosives. And yet, so many Democrats wanted to defend it now and now won't come out and say we were wrong. Can I just... It's the lack of accountability is what I'm getting at, I guess. It's the lack of accountability. It's the lack of apology. It's the lack of an acknowledgement that it was the wrong idea, because right now your position is that what Donald Trump is doing is too aggressive. And, I'm in this weird position where I agree with Donald Trump and I agree with the Pope. The Catholic bishops have come out and criticized all the deportations. And my view is deport all of them. Just don't be cruel. There's no reason to be cruel. There's no reason to send a group of people from Honduras to Uganda. Don't be cruel about the deportations. Just deport them. Don't round up citizens and legal aliens and make them fight for their right to be here. The default should be the presumption. ICE, by the way, you should know, is actually really good at their job. It's Border Patrol that tends to be the one that rounds up the people who shouldn't be rounded up. And ICE gets the blame because they're so prominent. It's not ICE, it's Border Patrol causing this problems. Don't be cruel, Mr. President, when you deport the people. Just deport them. And you Democrats, you're so upset about how the deportations are happening. The reason it's happening is because of the policies you implemented, and none of you are willing to admit your policies were crazy. Your policies allowed a terrorist into the country as an illegal alien who got a commercial driver's license and was driving an 18-wheeler. Deport them, but don't be cruel. I disagree with the Pope and the Catholics on the deportations. I do think, however, the Republicans are going to have hell to pay from some Hispanic voters, because it's not just the gangbangers, the criminals, the terrorists who are and the recent illegals. It's the people who've been here for 20, 30 years, and there is backlash in the Hispanic community. You can deny it all you want, but it's real. It shows up in the polling. It showed up in the vote and in the exit polling from these off-year elections. But I think the Democrats would be wrong to think that it's going to be a massive backlash. There's going to be some, not a lot, because some of these communities are safer because of who's been deported. I look at these policies, though, and I think, Democrats, are you ever going to acknowledge that you went through an insane period? It's like on transgenderism. It clearly is a social contagion because it's collapsing among younger demographics. They are absolutely rejecting trans ideology and transgenderism. And yet so many Democratic politicians stand up to this day, like they use the word Latinx and they believe that boys can become girls. And are they ever going to be able to acknowledge, I went through that crazy phase. Some people go through weird phases in life and they get out and they're like, that was an awkward phase I went through in life. Are the Democrats ever going to be able to acknowledge that they went through that awkward phase? They went through that, let the illegal aliens in and let boys cut off their body parts and become girls phase. It's kind of a weird, odd phase that people are transitioning out of right now, no pun intended. And the Democrats, they just kind of don't want to make eye contact about. They've been insane with these policies for a while, so much of it driven by their hatred of Donald Trump, and that's it. They defined public policy and ruined the country solely because they hate Donald Trump. Can they at least acknowledge that? I believe that there's a role to play for experts, that there are people with expertise in fields and they should be listened to, but that expertise should be balanced with our own common sense. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, I think, ever since COVID and the abuse of expertise during COVID, and now with transgenderism and the abuse of expertise there, a lot of people have just tuned out the expert class, and we're actually making mistakes in society because we've decided that all experts are actually idiots. And there's got to be a balance. But I got to tell you, the expert class is not helping itself. This is from the New York Post. In a move that might stink to some parents, there's a new age way to change a newborn's underwear. Drenched diapers are no longer messes that need to be ripped off a baby's bottom, according to new advice by early childhood development researchers in Australia. Instead, these experts encourage mothers and fathers to request an infant's consent before changing their diapers. At the start of a nappy change, ensure your child knows what is happening. Researchers from Deakin University wrote in their guide, get down to their level and say you need a nappy change and then pause so they can take it in. The experts further noted this can be a time to help children learn about consent and how their bodies work. With experts like these, we don't need experts. We need people to shut up and go away, don't we? This is why no one wants to listen to experts when people like this are platformed as experts, when clearly they are idiots. Old Glory Bank is my bank. They would like to be your bank. They're an online bank. They're not going to have a branch location in your area, but they figured out how you can still deposit money. Depositing checks, you use their app, and it works great. And they are a fast-growing bank around the country. They've got custodial accounts. They've got individual accounts. They've got premium accounts. If you're active duty military, first responder, veteran, they've got great deals for you. If you're a business, they're very hands-on with business lending and business checking. They were started by conservatives for conservatives battling the debanking trends that the left was inflicting on conservatives, particularly targeting the gun industry. And Old Glory Bank decided, you know what, we've got an idea where we can allow conservative businesses to get started and protect them from the debanking trends. And they've just taken off like a rocket, and they're great. OldGloryBank.com/Eric. I've got a checking account and a savings account from them. OldGloryBank.com/Eric. That's the website, OldGloryBank.com/ERICK. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply.